important to remember on this that you're not after detail, you're after basic description of the object. How big is it? How wide is it? How tall is it? Essentially, how much space does this object occupy? So you'll note that I'm not erasing, I'm drawing, redrawing, redrawing until what I have on the paper approximates for me essentially what I was looking at there. Now that drawing was completed in approximately 35 seconds, but that is the basic idea for doing a linear gesture. Let me demonstrate with another drawing, and I will switch objects this time. And rather than showing you the object that I'm going to be working with this time, I'm going to let you try and guess what it is as you watch the drawing develop. And again, I'm going to give myself between 30 and 45 seconds on this particular drawing. And begin. And there we go. That was about 35 seconds on that one. And the object that I was working from is this bottle. One more example of a linear gesture drawing before we move on to the next type of gesture drawing that we do in class. Now, material-wise on this, a good rough and cheap paper is usually the best way to go with this. Rough or newsprint works very well for this. Alternately, you can use just a plain white drawing paper. Drawing material-wise, though, what you want to work with is vine charcoal. The larger the chunk of vine charcoal, the better. Okay, so again, I'm going to go ahead and draw that smoker that I drew for the first one, but I'm putting it into a slightly different position this time. And on this one, I'm giving myself, again, between 30 and 45 seconds on the drawing. And begin. And just a few seconds left here on this one. And that is the end of my time on that drawing. So again, this is the same object that I was working with in the first drawing, but just drawn from a different perspective this time. So when we do this assignment in class, I have students pick up individual objects, draw it a couple of times in different positions, pass the objects around to each other, and over and over and over and over again. So again, the basic premise of a linear gesture drawing, which is what I just demonstrated here, is that you will learn through this to capture objects very rapidly by outlining their basic and general appearance on the paper. Not concerned with detail, just looking at general structure, weight, height, width, major things about it. So that is linear gesture. The next type of gesture drawing that I'm going to demonstrate today is what we refer to as mass gesture. We don't do as many of these in the classroom, but I will give you just really briefly what we do with this. So again, I'm going to work with one of the objects that I was using before. And the point of a mass gesture is that rather than working with the tip of your charcoal, which is what you do to create a line, you're going to be working with one of the broad edges of the charcoal, or one of the broad sides of the charcoal, to create a heavier mark. What you're looking at when you're doing a mass gesture drawing is to just very quickly show how much space the object fills in roughly where its edges are. So again, the process is the same. It's done quickly. Mass gestures might last anywhere from 30 seconds up to a minute at the very most. They go a little bit more rapidly typically than the linear gesture. And I just broke my charcoal into a different shape so that I could do this a little more easily. So again, I'm going to time myself for about 30 to 45 seconds and begin. And again on this one, the same bottle that I was working with on one of the last drawings. So again with this, you're just getting basic characteristics of the object, nothing too specific, doesn't need to be very detailed. So mass gesture drawings tend to look just like big black blobs sitting in the middle of the paper. The type of gesture drawing, however, that we use more frequently is what we refer to as a combination gesture drawing. And as the name implies on this one, it's a combination of the mass gesture approach and the linear approach. This is particularly useful when we're drawing from groups of objects as opposed to the individual objects that you see here in this particular frame. So what I'm going to do with this one, rather than starting a new mass gesture, I'm going to utilize the existing mass gesture of this bottle that I have here on the paper right now as the foundation for the combination gesture drawing that I'm going to demonstrate. So the process that you work with in a combination gesture drawing is that you begin with a mass gesture, much like what I just did. So again, working on top of this, you do a mass gesture, giving yourself anywhere from 15 seconds up to about 45 seconds on the maximum. And on top of the mass gesture, you're going to start laying in line. So when you come back in to do line work, you're going to switch from drawing with the broad edge of the drawing mark to one of the tips. So I'm going to lay the line right on top of it. Now this part of the process will help you define edges, get things a little more precise. And flesh out the form in a little greater detail. So again, that's an example of a combination gesture drawing. So when you're working from larger still life setups where you have multiple objects in a single frame, you can go back and forth between mass gesture, line gesture, or any combination thereof in between, depending on the type of object that you're drawing from. But with those three basic types of gesture demonstrations, you should be able to get started on what we were working with here. Gesture drawings are something that we will do frequently here in the classroom. It's something that we do even on longer drawings as a way to lay out basic composition and to get a basic sense of where the objects are going to exist in space, and to be able to determine basic proportions of the individual objects, but also the proportions between objects. Gesture drawings allow you to get a lot of information on the paper quickly, and to make marks that aren't as precious perhaps as you may be used to or accustomed to when you draw. So this is a very quick look at it, and the wonderful thing about vine charcoal, it smears really easily. So if I want to draw right on top of it, I can do one and draw another one right on top of it again. So don't hesitate to use the paper multiple times. It's fine to have those wonderful little ghost drawings underneath. But this will get you started with what we're doing here in the class.